What is a woman? Only an angel would ask such a question. I've always been very fond of angels. I could see an angel descending from the sky, sitting amongst the gods in curiosity. They are creators of gods, I would say to the descending angel with perfect conviction and pride. This idea and thought combine both monotheism and polytheism beliefs into one core belief or reality, yet I intend to preserve them in such a way as to establish somewhat of a civic coherence. It is an epistemological viewpoint, although some may consider the concepts thereof to be neo pagan or Wiccan, thereby assuming women as a predominant species over men, which I believe is furthest from the truth. I merely came to a conclusion in reality based on my perception and observation. My question is, how could writings of gods indicate a multiple hierarchy of gods that proceeded for many of years before the creation of a providential God? Well, who created this God? I uttered. And how was this providential God created? Whoever created this providential God created it as a mean of punishment, a punishment for the mistreatment and for the non duplication of our creators. Although there has been documentation in ancient hieroglyphics for the first record of monotheistic beliefs, the grounding of humanity is human sentiment. That is to say, the moral dimensions of life are not marked out by the productions of abstract rationality. They're marked out by the actual constitute of nature of our being, that we are equipped by a providential God. The very constitution of our nature is equipped in such a way as to have certain core sentiments that establish what we value, the sentiment of benevolence, for example. I am not attempting to suggest a deicide of the providential God by any means, as to cause mortal combat between belief systems and religions, bringing them antipathy and discord. I am merely insinuating the existence of an alternative methodology. Whether you reject, denounce, or believe that there is indeed a providential God, you have to at least acknowledge the creation of the providential God, because you wouldn't be able to have the consideration of it as an idea or be able to consider it as truth without the mere existence of the creation of the idea itself. If you were indeed in rejection of such a God, then you shouldn't even engage in such a debate. Because to engage in a discussion of whether a providential God exists or not is to deny its very creation. A great deal of force was utilized to implement the creation. Nearly a third of the population on earth believes in a providential God. What has happened is that the gods indeed became masters of their creator. When this happened, monotheism took precedence over polytheistic beliefs. There weren't any more gods, or even creators of gods for that matter. Victor Frankenstein is a great example of a creation that later became the master of his creator by killing the poet, so to speak. The demise of the poet paved the way for the destruction of a creator. And with the destruction of the creation's creator led to the creation becoming nothing more than another monster. This is the punishment and the judgment for those who master and destroy their creator in this society. But it is accepted and tolerated. A poet is merely a reporter, a witness to the creation. Without a record or documentation of the creation, there is no creation. Although the creation exists, the creator still lives in terror of their creation merely because there is no documentation, record, or witness of their wonder. When the poet dies, so does the creator, leaving nothing behind but another monster. Women are creators of gods. No one in this current society would even remotely consider this postulate, let alone give credence to such a claim. But if but what if this were true? What if this was a maxim and a categorical imperative, a universal law and moral action in which to live by? As remarkable and prodigious as this may sound, the very act of attempting to live this law would not only leave me laughed at and subject to ridicule, but it could very well leave me martyred on the White House lawn for even considering such a notion in this current society, let alone me trying to preach or disseminate it to the masses, this demonstrable truth. This reality and law, if implemented in practice, could very well break down the social construct and government as a whole to its entirety. Everything from the demoralization and exploitation of our creators would also change and also be demolished. The conceptual idea of a providential God could run the risk of also being destroyed, although this would not be the intention. I believe the monotheistic and polytheistic beliefs can coexist as long as the creators of gods and the creations only operate in create conditioned frequencies. Any faction or group that partakes in this action with enough force and intention could very well jeopardize the economics and banking systems, if not the whole human race for that matter. It would indeed have to be cumulative, in the same way that scientific knowledge is also cumulative. At the same time, we must justify what makes the problem problematic. Mankind would begin to think that they were indeed an invasion and that they were under attack by an advanced alien species. The truth is that by doing this action successfully, it would be a deprogramming. The device is currently going in reverse because the cog in the wheel is going in reverse. By turning the Rolex hands to go forward, what do you think would happen with time? I believe that time would indeed alter to some degree. It's impossible to know what level of magnitude, but it would indeed most definitely change, because implementing this action requires a great deal of force, and time is a wavelength within the force frequency. I don't know if it would speed up or slow down, or if time would ultimately cease. It would depend on the level of magnitude and intention of force put into the desired area. That would cause a direct correlation to the outcome, being that it is in the step up from the game condition. This is indeed an ancient technology. It isn't a newly created idea or philosophy, but it should be treated like a new idea. It isn't to make people feel better or worse. Rather, it is to test the most fundamental beliefs and the most fundamental values and convictions that we have and to test them for the purpose of getting them right. At the same time, realizing the basic questions as to what it could mean to get it right are often finally unanswerable. All ideas are subject to criticism, and one must be open to new ideas that may be contrary to the one specified. The role of our creators has been degraded and diminished, but I feel that it could be salvaged and rectified merely through the duplication of a higher postulate and goal. Collectively, we will embark on a journey of beauty and wonder. Let nature be the guide and show the fly a way out of the bottle. You will find this innate idea is embedded from birth, and that it would come as natural as breathing. It would not be a new ideology or postulate. It would indeed be a lost technology that has been buried and hidden within the veil of time. And you would just be pulling the veil back, revealing what had been hidden for so long.